Yes, hello. I just wanted to create a response to AJ's video. I can barely see because the light on my camera is blinding my eyes, and it's probably not the best quality, but I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about times when I've had similar problems to this. I mean, I was there at the Where the Wild Things Are screening, and these kids were just running about the whole time, and I at one point went down the aisle to them to speak to them. I said to them, look, would you mind stopping running around? I didn't think I even said would you mind, because I was being quite authoritative in my way, in my sort of 6'5", imposing stature with my long hair, and looking a bit scary to these little children who were wearing fairy wings and little hats because they were evidently at some birthday party. I just said, look, stop running around. This isn't a playground. This is a cinema. I probably wasn't that mean. I don't know. It was a while ago. You guys know when Where the Wild Things Are came out. Sorry to keep looking around. I just don't want to keep looking at this light. I was going to erase my corneas. And yeah, we spoke to their parents afterwards, who were there waiting for them, and they were really surprisingly understanding. Actually, I think because I'm quite timid, except when I can intimidate small children, as I did then. I just sort of stood around moaning to AJ, and he, in his brave way, went and spoke to these parents and said, "Look, well, your kids have been behaving horribly during the screening," and they were completely understanding. I said, "Oh God, we're so sorry. You should speak to the management about it and complain." And I was quite taken aback by the fact that they wanted us to complain about their children, or what I presume were their children, and so we did, and we got a refund very, very thankfully. And so that was a relatively okay cinema experience. But I have one of when I went to go and see Toy Story 3, which AJ knows about. What happened was, and I realised Toy Story 3 is a kids' film, but it doesn't give an excuse for the kind of behaviour that was going on at the screening I went to. But I went with my family to the Toy Story 3 2D screening because, well, I hate 3D, and I think it probably gives my dad a headache, and my mum was just glad to be going to the cinema with us, I think, because we never go to the cinema. Anyway, that's beside the point. There was this little kid next to me who was screaming his head off the whole time, and he was with this rather, I suppose the British term would be chavvy looking parents, but I'm not one to judge. And so after a while, I leant over to the boy's father and said, very, very politely, I said, "Would you mind quietening your child down a little bit?" Which I think is an acceptable thing to say to someone whose child is screaming and is the only child making any noise in a screening that had a lot of children in it. And I'm sorry for the camera moving quite a bit because I'm holding it. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. We went to quite a late screen to try and avoid these kids, and alas, that wasn't the case. Anyway, and he went off on one basically. Right, that's going to be a bit of a rough edit. My camera ran out of battery just as I was starting the story. Anyway, this guy, as I was saying, went off on one, as they say. He went ballistic. I think he thought that I was challenging his authority over his family. As some weird challenge to his male dominance. I do not know, but the guy responded in a way that I at first thought was genuine. Because he was actually just making a really poor attempt at sarcasm, it turned out. He said to me, "Oh yeah, alright mate, yeah, I'll calm him down," and I obviously didn't pick up on that, but I don't know, I'm not very good at picking up on people's tones of voices and stuff like that, I don't know. And also I was focused half on the cinema, on the film, and yeah, I was a bit distracted. I mean, this was probably about half an hour from the end, but as time went on, I could almost feel the anger, just coming off this guy in almost visible fumes. He was shaking, and I could hear him this real heavy breathing, as though he was ready for a fight, and it was really quite terrifying. And his wife, or girlfriend, or whatever, I don't know, judging by this guy, probably his sister as well, was sharing in his anger, and they looked at me as if I'd said, "Oh, if you don't shut that kid's trap, I'm going to boot him down into the front row," which I obviously didn't say. I was really polite, but there's no reasoning with some people. And he kept leaning over to me and making vague threats, and as I said about the Where the Wild Things Are incident, I really hate confrontation, And so this really got me scared, to the point when, for the last 20-25 minutes of Toy Story 3, I was shaking, I was sweating, I just felt like there was something. Wait, do you know that there's a ride in Brighton? This is probably just for UK viewers. They probably have similar things in America called the Wurlitzer, which is basically a teacup ride on crack, as they say. And so it's just going up and down really, really fast. And basically, I felt like I was on that, because it just makes your stomach turn and just clamp up and feel really, really unwell. I actually quite like the Wurlitzer. I've grown to love scary rides recently. Anyway, that's beside the point. Sorry, I'm rambling, as is the nature of these videos. And yeah, I was just absolutely terrified. But I sort of stood my ground. I didn't apologise to him or anything like that. I sort of looked at him, because I can't speak when I'm feeling that. I just looked at him with, I suppose, a bit of what I thought was a tough look. I don't know. And he kept saying, as he was leaving the cinema after Toy Story 3 had ended, he was basically making gestures and I think saying things as though to say, "Oh yeah, we'll settle this outside," something like that. He wasn't there waiting for me. I think maybe he'd been ushered away by management or something like that, because he was clearly off his nut, as they say. But as I was walking through Epsom, where I went to see the cinema, the film even, at the Odeon in Epsom, as I was walking past a shop, he just emerged from the shop as though he'd been waiting in there looking for me, because it had quite a good view of the high street, so I wouldn't be surprised if he'd been waiting in the shop front to come out to me. And he clearly was ready to hit me. And as I said, I didn't exactly apologise. I did that very backhanded thing that people do when they're in an argument and they want it to stop, but don't want to admit that they're wrong. So I said, "I'm sorry if I offended you," which is a thing a lot of people say. If someone makes a really offensive remark, and you take and you feel hurt by that, and you say to them, "That's not right," and then they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry if I offended you." Well, no, you shouldn't be sorry if you offended them. You should be sorry for making the remark in general, and accept that it's not realise it's not an acceptable thing to say. You shouldn't just be sorry that you offended that one person. You should be sorry you made the remark in the first place. Anyway, I did that similar thing, except I hadn't made an offensive remark. I'd made what he perceived as an offensive remark, and which very few people, I think, would actually perceive in that same way. So I felt I was in the right, and I just said, "I'm sorry if I offended you," but he, in his sort of rather simplistic way, took this as an apology on the whole, and I wasn't about to correct him. I didn't want to get into a fight, and so it's funny, he changed from this fuming gorilla into this quite soft, nice man. I say nice, it's a relative term to how he was acting. And he did that thing where he put his hand to his chest and said, "Oh, well, as long as you're sorry then, that's okay." And he was clearly, at first I thought he was being sarcastic, but he really seemed genuine in this. And so he smiled and walked away, and we went off in the car and walked home. And I was very, very shaken, and I still have bad memories associated with that film, even though it's probably a very good film. I find it hard to watch now because of that extremely negative situation associated with it. And so yes, I suppose, apart from sharing all of AJ's sentiments in that video, those are my two main bad experiences in the cinema with fellow audience members. Luckily, I live very close to an art house cinema. I live in Norwich, and it's a place called Cinema City, and it's just up my road, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's just got 3 very small screens. They're always showing older films. I mean, at 11 this evening, I'm going to watch The Warriors, which I think is from 1979. It's a cult classic, and the reason I signed up for it is actually the reason I bought a ticket is because Rockstar made a game of it, and I think it's the one film adaptation they've done, so I think that'll be worth checking out. Oh, pardon me, just eating supper. And also because it's meant to be a cult classic, and I will rarely turn down an opportunity to watch an old film. I've got some great events coming up there soon. Actually, I'm going to a Q&A with Werner Herzog via satellite after his screening of his new documentary Into the Abyss, which is about inmates from death row. And just last week, I had a Q&A with the directors of Black Pond, who were up for a BAFTA this year for Best British Debut, and that was with Chris Langham, the disgraced star of the film, who spent some time in prison for a while. You can look him up. I'm not going to talk about it here. And also there's one with Neil Patrick Harris, which I probably one that the YouTube subscribers will appreciate the most, as he's quite a big internet personality. After a screening of his film, not his film, but a film he's in, a film of musical. I think it might be a screening of the stage play Company. It's Stephen Sondheim. That'll be interesting. Anyway, I won't take up any more time, any more of your time rather. Not that your time is indispensable if you're spending it watching YouTube videos. Anyway, I will say goodbye now, and a great video as always, AJ.